Our dearest, beloved, divine friends and families, your friend, your brother, me, Haji, Dr. Ocean Khan. Today is Sunday, 27th, at Guyana, tropical, beautiful Guyana. Look at it out there. Nice and cool. Last night we had some rains, watered the plants so I can take some rest. My staff is off today. So much things happening, you know. It is so painful that as a Guyanese, we really don't know what to say. Those of you are asking what kind of shirt I have, it's an old shirt. It is the 40th anniversary of our Guyana relationship with the People's Republic of China. Just so I know how Guyanese are. They want to know what kind of t-shirt I have. And what is that chain? That chain is has the bearing of the universal creator. In Arabic, it is Allahu, the one and only. And for the Hindus, it would have been Om, or the Jews, Yahweh, Elohim, and the enlightened Christians. Anyhow, we wonder, you know, ladies and gentlemen, what is it these politicians take our tax dollars to mean to them? What is their intention when they take power? And I'm particularly referring to the APNO AFC. I recall when they took power, there was a sense of excitement, even amongst those who did not support them. The change was beautiful, but they expended that joy in the hearts of people very quickly. And that fairness, everybody was willing and ready to give the APNO. You see, I don't think much about AFC. I always thought they were opportunistic. They were like leeches. And I thought that they were just there to enjoy themselves and to get whatever they feel that they could eke out of the country for themselves. Opportunistic cabal, that AFC, and they don't care about their kith and kin. That is the people mostly in the sugar estates, and how they betrayed them so that they could get their positions and without even guiding and setting a thing in them. So I don't really think much about the AFC. I never did, I don't, and I never will, and it proves that my ability to assess people, institutions, and organizations, and even to predict that I have that talent and that ability, as I did with their birth. Profiling is a skill that I am born with, and I was also trained many years ago, though, a few decades ago, in profiling, which is a bit old-fashioned now, compared to what profiling would be like in modern times. Now, you know, coming back to this article I'm seeing here, in the Guyana Times, $400 million check unaccounted for. $400 million check for immigration equipment payment disappears this year. And it was raised in Parliament, not to the full depths that they should, because they want to get more facts on it. But I'm hoping that they're wrong and that this money was properly spent. And Mr. Winston Felix, former Commissioner of Police and the Minister of Citizenship. Why they break up the ministry, I don't understand. They had to have some sinister motive to try to give, as many of us suspect, citizenship to people who would probably appear to be supporters of theirs coming from overseas and would vote for them. Everything that they did in the APNU, unfortunately, spelled of wanting to perpetuate themselves in power. We saw the madness of employing the chairman of the GCOM, and also certain particular staffers, the deputy CEO, the HR officer, and so on. So we kind of expect these kinds of things, and it's very painful and truly very sad. But you know what? And then also the ERC, the then president, made it quite clear that he would feel very comfortable with a particular person as the chairman. You know, so many things are questionable, and we can see certain things that are done and said why he wanted certain particular persons in positions of power and position and commissions and so on. Now to the article. The People's Progressive Party Civic will be probing the disappearance of some 400 million that was supposed to be used for the procurement of immigration equipment for the Chedijagan International Airport. This issue was first raised in the National Assembly Committee of Supply during the consideration of the budget estimates for citizenship and immigration services on the spending of some $711,401 on furniture and equipment for 2019. You know, when you spend other people's money, ladies and gentlemen, that's me. Any organization I stand in, and I have a position, and even in the ERC right now, I'm questioning certain expenditures because I keep on telling them that these are taxpayers' money, and for people to reach a comfort or whatever, or even their appetites, they need to be careful how they spend the people's money. It's not even the government money. The government didn't work for that. Those money were paid by the citizens of this country for services they want, and by virtue of the fact that they live in the country and that they have to pay 31% of their earnings to the government. Then they have to pay for every single conceivable thing that they consume in VAT. Thank God that the new government has taken power and has removed the VAT that was placed on educational items and also on water, electricity, rice, sugar, basic raw material for now. But they are going to do much more, is my opinion. But my point is, how they spend and waste the citizens' money, you know? It hurts the human soul and dignity. Is in pain and hurt. Back to the article. The issue was first raised, okay, I told you that. Governance and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Gail Teixeira, in response to questions, said, Governance and Parliamentary Affairs Minister Gail Teixeira, in response to questions, said, apparently the quantum, which is large, relates to equipment that was ordered to do with upgrading the Chedijagan International Airport immigration passport arrangements. She explained that some 650 million of that amount in equipment was ordered from Canadian bank note. Now, what kind of equipment is that? Canadian bank note. That has to be special equipment to test passports and so on. As of today, the majority of these equipment has not arrived in the country, and a smaller amount of over 100 million was spent to buy support equipment like computers, scanners, and so forth. And those have arrived, but the larger bulk had not arrived as yet, which has to do with upgrading our capacity to run the airport in a modern and efficient manner, Teixeira told the House. You know, ladies and gentlemen, we got to thank God for these people like Gail Teixeira who sacrificed their life for something that they like, which is politics. But most of all, Sewa, to serve the country and the people. These people are true heroes and heroines who give their all for their country and for their country folks. Back to the article. In a subsequent interview with Guyana Times, however, the governor's minister pointed out that it was later discovered that a check of some 400 million that was written for the company was never actually paid. That's why we can understand the fight down and the manipulation to try to get into that power, no matter what they do to themselves or to their lives into the future. Internationally, back to the article. There is now some level of proof that part of the money was never paid to the company that was supposed to bring in the items. That check was held back. If this hasn't been discovered, one would wonder if this check would be divided among a number of people, so that requires another investigation, Teixeira told the newspaper. So they are suspecting that this check is to be divided, or was already divided, or is hidden and might show up suddenly. I'm getting that point. It doesn't say here that to show that the check was never used. So they were waiting to test the people. Like you have a staff or a domestic working in the house, and behind a large can, you're hiding your sardines, your matches, and certain things that you might tend to forget, so she can fetch it away and carry it out. Or they'll find some money somewhere and they hide it in a corner and see whether you will ask. And when you ask, so yes, look, I found it and I put it over there, to see whether you will forget. So it seems this is what she's alluding to. But my hope is that they will find this check, even if they try to steal it, but it will show up and they will save their name in some way, even though the suspicion would have eked out their credibility. Back to the article. She went on to explain that it was checked. How come this company hasn't sent in the stuff and were supposedly bought from them? Then one found this check of approximately $400 million after December 31st, 2019, that was never submitted to the company, and the money that would have covered that check was never returned to the consolidated fund. So it was never returned, friends and family, to the fund. So where is the check? It is either hidden, waiting, like a staffer working with you, hiding to see if you will remember. The governance minister posited that former Citizenship Minister Winston Felix has to answer as to where the money is. He has to answer to them in Parliament and or the police, and also the UK police, who, to my opinion, is watching and preparing to help us in these kinds of investigations. So Mr. Felix has a lot to answer for. This issue came out in Parliament, although I did not go into detail because we didn't know about it, the missing money, at that time. So now they know about the missing money. So this now requires another investigation. This issue of missing money comes on the heels of another scandal coming out of Felix-led Citizenship Ministry last week. Teixeira, who disclosed the house that controversial businessman Larry London received a multi-million-dollar contract under the previous APNU AFC administration to print thousands of birth certificates for the Ministry of Citizenship. Well, that man is a very blessed man because he was drawing a large salary with benefits and gratuity to become a director of parks. Whilst we have a parks commission, well managed and able, and he's not living in the country, but he was a director of parks. So they could spend your money willy-nilly, friends and families, to compensate themselves. And I believe parts of the money was going to other personality other than persons like Larry London and others. The contract was sole sourced to a Florida-based company called Universal Procurement Services, which is now listed as inactive in the state's Division of Corporations database. Oh my God, Winston, man, how you could do things like this, brother? No money in the world is worth your credibility, man. No money in the world. London has been the subject of numerous articles dating as far back to his involvement in the Durban Park project, which cost over $1 billion and was shrouded in secrecy. At the time, he was named as the principal of Homestretch Development Corporation, which coordinated the construction of what is now known as Durban Park. A kind of a strange Stadium. With a salary, it was revealed that he was appointed by the former government as Director of Parks with a salary of 500,000 plus benefits. Meanwhile, former Minister Felix last Thursday defended the award of the contract to London, a close ally of the coalition, explaining that the then government continued a decade-long practice to sole such a company to print the birth certificates. But that company no longer exists. Mr. Felix, why are you doing this to yourself, man? Credibility, name, and family, and respectability of family and children are the most important assets we can have. Money, Brother Felix, is garbage, trash, unless it is used for good. Back to the article. But Teixeira had called out Felix for sidestepping key concerns raised over the award of the contract to London's company. She questioned the rationale behind contracting London, who was not only closely linked at the time, employed as Director of Parks within the Department of the Environment under the same Ministry of the Presidency that had oversight of the Department of Citizenship. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is In the Raw, RKs Guyana Free Media, and I'm your host, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan. She questioned the rationale. Okay, we finish with that. So the issue is not just about single sourcing the contract. Mr. Felix is trying to deflect the issue. It is the fact that there is a person employed by the government who already has had many question marks over his activities with Durban Park, who was hired in the government within the same ministry in which Mr. Felix was given the contract to print birth certificates. Teixeira had pointed out. It is something, this deflecting technique seems to be something existing in the APNU, my friends, brothers, sisters, families in Guyana and around the world. So I was saying about this deflecting, if you recall, recently, after all the shenanigans and the madness with the East Coast protests and the words of division and hate and obvious use of violence, encouragement, because the response was right, he said. And I was calling upon the people who are being attacked, slaughtered, chopped, beaten, broken, burnt. Then you had arson on their properties, rapes, and murdered. So what he did, smartly as what he called himself, an intelligence specialist, as an intelligence specialist, he deflected and he went, when I called for Indians in the West Coast Berbice who feel threatened, that you should form protection groups equipped with batons and sticks, which is legally allowed, protect your minorities but do not be aggressive. Such a beautiful word. And then by doing that, he had his satellites and his acolytes to try to attack me, so that the media also, which I think was not very fair, did not realize what he was doing. He manipulated the media, and then he had his trolls sending out messages and petition and tried to confuse me, to break me, to get me out of the Ethnic Relations Commission, as if he or anyone is ever born to do that. And I'm no enemy of Harman. I still look upon him as my friend. You know, that's someone that I think has the capacity to be a good leader if he could do the right thing. And so by that, he was trying to deflect him and his boss, former President David Granger, who also were calling to form defensive group to protect themselves and so on with a much harsher language than I was using. My language was sheer love. Do not be aggressive. Protect the people who are your minorities. None of them use that. So it was they are deflecting specialists, so to say. You understand me, ladies and gentlemen? So they're trying to get away from the point. But I know there are people in government, out of government, independent persons who came out solidly in support of me. And if you notice, their trolls have gone silent. They put a few people led by a Figuera of Linden, relative of the other Figuera, to try to lead something to put me in a bad light, but instead they put themselves in a bad light. And I've challenged both sets of them, and including the few that they have in the ERC that they control, who quickly jumped after he made that statement and instructed them to try to embarrass and humiliate me, to walk out and leave. But they can't get that out of me. And they can't get me to sign an agreement to follow some kind of a code so that I have to shut up, or they could penalize me for a variety of things. I'm a little bit too smart for that, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family. So these guys are defectionists. They call themselves intelligence specialists, but really they're very wanting and needing. They're more like what I would refer to as the carrion crows, looking for dead flesh to fatten themselves on. So I have also sent out a beautiful challenge for them to sit with me, all of them if they want, together, or one, and compare my words in a friendly, beautiful debate. As the Quran says, the Holy Quran, argue with them in a beautiful voice. And so I'm prepared to sit with all of them, or one of them, with the critic, with the famous international critic Guyanese, television and newspapers, and let us have a beautiful, friendly debate. My words versus Harmon's and Granger words. Which is more deceptive and decrepit and tantamount to division, hate, and possible violence? Friends and family, thank you, Mr. Besram, and all the others who have been sending missives and messages to come to my aid and defense. Very much appreciated. And you have exposed the shenanigans and the evils of those who are bent on perpetual thievery and have systems in place for generational thievery to take place in certain investments, which I hope the government and their Scotland Yards and their FBIs and the regional security system will find what they did and what they're doing. So friends and family, as I'm coming to conclusion, so the issue, back to the article, is not just about single sourcing the contract. Mr. Felix is trying to deflect the issue, like I just explained. Government has already had many question marks over the activities with Durban Park, who was hired in government within the same industry in which Mr. Felix was given the contract to print the birth certificate. And I go on. I'm coming to the end now, ladies and gentlemen. She went on to say the corruption aspect of this is the inside trading that was ongoing within APNU AFC administration of keeping everything within the family and the level of nepotism and cronyism that existed. Felix sidestepped completely that this was inside trading and inside arrangement, and there was no accountability. Were all these birth certificates received? Were all these accounted for? Those are issues that a full-fledged investigation will have to determine. And the fact that we found many people coming from Haiti actually had new birth certificate, new passports waiting for them. An investigation has to be done to justify the use of those birth certificates. My take, my point, my emphasis here in the Guyana Times of September 27, Sunday, 2020, ladies and gentlemen. And as I close up, only Tuesday, Auditor General David Sharma told Guyana Times that his office is likely to also do a special audit on the contract. Please, Mr. Deodat, Please, government watchdog, finance specialists and committees. Please, Transparency International, United Nations, the FBI, the Scotland Yard. We need closure on all of this, and why we have to understand why our monies are usually abused. And it seems in the previous government that hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in Guyana and many hundreds of US dollars are unaccounted for. But because some people are just mentally lopsided with racism and having a special priority for whom they think they love or their party, and they have lost their consciousness when it comes to truth and righteousness and what is good for the country. Dearest friends and family, brothers and sisters, your friend, your brother, me, Haji Dr. Roshan Khan, saying thank you and farewell, my dear, beloved friends, for now.